So our very last lecture is about the future of California and where we go from here. And we can take some predictions into consideration and think about where we're headed. First of all, our population continues to grow. California is, a exciting place. People love to move here. It's a dynamic state with lots of opportunities, and we predict that it continues to grow. And so we're looking at predictions of over 50 million people by the year 2050, which is a little scary when I sit on the freeway. Think, where will all those cars go? And that is one of the questions is, we don't have the basic infrastructure, and really, we have crumbling infrastructure. So we're going to have to improve that. We need the roads and freeways. We need schools and homes. We need jobs for all those people. We need water. And we just don't really have enough resources in the right places for where people want to live. There's actually, if you drive up the 5 freeway, or in Northern California, there's all this open land in California. It's just not the places that people want to live. So we have to figure out how to get the resources that people need to the places where there is, available space. And I think that will happen, particularly with technology being one of the X factors that we don't know of, how much will all this technology allow us to live remotely and not necessarily be tied to the location of our job. And then you can live in a much more affordable place and not have to worry about long commutes, public transportation, or autonomous cars. I mean, all of these factors could change the dynamics completely. So we do have to think about investing in infrastructure. We do have to think about how to accommodate more people and the factors that go with that. Now, while the population is growing, and some of the population is growing because of just natural population shifts, some of it is growing because of interstate, people coming here from other states, and some of it is foreign immigration. So there's a lot that could impact those numbers and change them. But our population has been pretty steady throughout, past shifts and changes, so we don't expect that to change radically. Demography. This is the adult population. So, when I first looked at it, I'm like, wait, 2010, we had 40 million people. But this is adults over 18. And what you see is that the Latino population is growing much more rapidly than the white population. And in fact, the white population is sort of holding steady, but losing as a percentage. Here's another graphic that has the same kind of data that shows, the Latino population is growing, and relatively in proportion, the white population is shrinking. The other populations are staying relatively the same in terms of the proportion of the population. And one of the reasons for the white population to be losing so much so rapidly is because, well, there's no nice way to put this, but old people are dying. And over the next few decades, this majority white senior population that's, 78% white is no longer going to be on the chart. And young people that are overwhelmingly Latino are going to grow and become adults and then have children, and that changes the population. So it's not that we're expecting this huge wave of immigration from Mexico or Central America. It's just the people who are already here who are growing older and then having children. And it will become a majority Latino state. that's sort of clear, that we are going to shift from currently a majority minority where there is no one ethnic group that has a majority of the population to a majority Latino. And that's going to be interesting to see politically. What is the effect of that? Is there going to be a battle between the majority Latino population? And currently we have a majority white electorate. Even though whites are not the largest group, they vote more often. And obviously, as Latinos get older, they will vote more often as stakeholders, as educated, older, rich Latinos, they will vote more often. There's a huge push to have more Latino candidates on the ballot to encourage more Latinos to vote. So those factors are going to emerge with more Latino voters. But it'll be a while before that's really reflected in the electorate. So the electorate is kind of a lagging indicator of the population itself. So we already have more Latinos than whites, but on election day, it doesn't seem like it because the majority of the voters are seniors and seniors are white. So it will be interesting to see the political battles as these populations, and certainly within the Latino population, there will be different policy preferences, and what people want from the government will be different. No one group is a monolith, all wanting the same thing. And age population is going to change as well and shift. And if you see, the biggest change here is that our senior population continues to grow as life expectancy expands, as people are aging in place and not moving other places. And that'll be a factor. Those numbers may or may not change depending on housing prices, and whether or not people leave or move, then opens up some housing supply. So it's sort of an interesting conundrum of, do we have to build all new houses? Are people going to leave? Well, as people live longer and age in place and can stay in the same place, if not the same house, then at least the same state, that kind of shifts things around. So when we talk about that, that also has some impact on individual Californians. So there's this phenomenon called the sandwich generation, where you're in the middle of your life and you've got, kids that are busy and in school and in sports and all of these obligations that you have, keeping, homework and dinner on the table, at the same time that you have aging parents that suddenly need your help more. And so you get sandwiched between the two generations. California is going to go through that as well, as we've got, half of our population under the age of 20 and half over the age of 60. This tax-paying working group is really going to get sandwiched between the obligations of kids and paying taxes for parks and schools and recreation programs and keeping kids busy and engaged, at the same time that they're going to have to, have Alzheimer daycare, so that, their adult children can go to work, and caregivers. We have a massive shortage of caregivers in the state of California, and we're going to need more people to be home health aides. All of that is going to come. What kind of resources are senior citizens going to demand from their cities? Public transportation, being able to get places. I can sort of imagine a city having a fleet of driverless cars that are available, or maybe technology fills that gap with, Uber and Lyft providing cars and transportation when people can no longer drive. But all of that sort of is the interesting idea of, what kind of demands will be placed on our government and who pays for them. And that's the sandwich factor, that while we're going through that individually, we're also going to be going through that as a state of having increasing demands on those who aren't contributing to the tax base. So likely voters right now, this was what I was referencing before, likely voters right now is 72% white because seniors vote and seniors are white. And what we're looking at, I don't know if it'll be 2030, it might be 2040, that Latinos become a majority of the electorate of those who are voting. We already know that they're going to become uh, uh, a majority of the population, but 70% of California's new voters in 2030 are going to be voters of color. And so that's really going to shift things as voter efficacy improves, people teach their kids and socialize their kids to vote. That all is going to snowball into an effect where we're going to have a majority Latino vote. And again, Latinos are not a monolith. We're not sure whether age is going to be more of a factor, or ethnicity is going to be more of a factor of what people want as policy preferences. So population shifts. We're also expecting that, like I said, not everybody can live where they want to live. So growth is expected to boom in places where there are available houses and places to live. Central Valley, Riverside, Imperial Valley. And that's going to shift the demographics of those areas in a way and possibly change those regions as an effect. It will also depend on technology of how easy it is. Will, tech firms move out of the Bay Area because it's so incredibly expensive? Or does it just become easier to put a satellite campus in Riverside for Google or Yahoo or any of those tech firms? But if the median income is significantly less, do you have to pay people as much to work in, the Central Valley compared to Bay Area for housing prices? There's a concern that we're becoming a two-tiered economy, and this is already a concern with outsourcing so many jobs being replaced with technology, is what kind of jobs will be offered to Californians. We're dividing into this two-tier economy of professional jobs that kind of can't be replaced, doctor and lawyer and, for now, professor. We'll see if we get replaced by holograms that teach you. But there's kind of these professional jobs, tech jobs, and STEM jobs, medical jobs, and then service jobs, people to, provide the services for the rest of the economy. And that's a concern because technology and automation is really coming along. The most common job in every single state in the country is driver, truck driver, delivery driver, all of those kinds of drivers. And you think, oh, what are drivers going to do when driverless cars come along? Now, I'm really excited about driverless cars from a personal perspective. My parents are in their 70s, and, I would like to be able to give my parents a driverless car so that they can still have autonomy and independence. In Turlock, a town in Central Valley that doesn't have a lot of public transportation, they're not really comfortable with Lyft or with Uber. That's sort of not something they, like, I don't want to get in a stranger's car. Like, well, buses and taxis are also strangers, but whatever. But that technology of having, adult children, adults with autism that might not be able to get a driver's license or other disabilities. I've got a friend who has, who's legally blind, and she's like, oh, like the independence that would open up with a driverless car is amazing. But on the other hand, millions of people are going to be out of a job because of it. So there's always this, pro and con of moving forward with progress. A lot of people are going to be without work. The new normal of California fires and climate change. So these are all factors in